we saw an area where most of this material resides in the town. We approached property owners asking if they thought that they would be having mining activities. Most of the people we approached at that time said no. We had a meeting, we had several meetings, but we had meetings where property owners came in, we talked about it. In the end, it came down to, and it was sort of surprising, there was only one area in town that was in play, one family that said that they could potentially be doing a soil mining operation. So no one approached us. There wasn't any, special consideration given to anyone. This product is in certain areas in town. So that's how the process got started. Based on those discussions, we wound up having more meetings, defining the area, and in 2008, there was a local law drafted designating a soil mine area, soil mine overlay. That was adopted back then. When the new zoning came about, the new zoning process came about, it was readopted as a soil mining overlay district. So it was thought out for a long period of time whether or not we would even have soil mining remaining in the town. It had always been in town. And I'm not defending or speaking against it. What I'm saying is you either have it or you don't have it. And once you have it, you can regulate it to that extent. We went from 50 square miles in play to essentially 23 acres in play. At that time, we thought, that's not only a compromise, it's not even a compromise, it was reducing it to such an extent that it was in one area. And I know that's not comforting to people who are abutting these activities. But then you're talking about mitigation, and you're talking about regulation, and you're talking about confidence in the person who's going to be conducting the activity. And those were the things that we considered.
But Richard, the town didn't have to have mining in the town at all. We didn't have to have a mining district.
That is true.
And by having this one mining district for this one favored applicant, they are favored because there are other people that would mine in this town if they could.
That's not true. It's not borne out by the facts. What about the spot zoning?
This one applicant now has this mining district. And if no one could mine in the town, that would be one thing. But now that they've got it, somebody can make the claim of spot zoning because it is right in the middle of open space overlay, surrounded by residential property, and anybody else who has almost all the mining property that could be mined in this town is on more favorable land than that. So this sets the worst example for anybody to challenge the town and then put to ask for their own mine. Why not?
But during 5 years of the zoning process, no one did.
Because we were all busy fighting ridge lines and open spaces and rezoning estate zoning.
But that doesn't mean nobody will. That doesn't mean nobody will.
No, I agree. No, I don't. I'm not saying that. But no one has.
And by the way, if mining is such a bad thing that we're so grateful not to have it in the rest of the town, why have it at all? It's strictly because you care about this one family's mining interest, and you feel a loyalty to this one family. But that's not the way that.
So you're making an accusation now that can't be borne out by anything, you can't support that with any facts. You're accusing me of something that is not true. Not at all.
Well, you have said to people repeatedly that the Lions are a good family. They're a good operator. They've given a lot to this town, and they deserve this. You have said things to that effect.
I did not say they've given a lot to this town. I did not say they deserve this. I would say that they are a good family. I would say they have a history of doing responsible work in the town.
Could they turn around and sell it?
Yes.
But they could sell it.
They could sell the rights.
But it hasn't been established that permit is transferable.
Oh.
Of course it's transferable.
That has not been established.
They own the property. Anybody could buy that permit. Anybody could buy that permit. It hasn't been established that it's not transferable.
True.
Okay?
Right.
So to me, if it's an operation for the next 30 years, it could have any one of a number of people operating it. And secondly, what benefit does it give to the town? Everyone I go to has told me, oh, I've been told by Richard Shea that we need a local source of this thing for our roads. So meantime, I find out, I ask, where do we get this stuff now? And I'm told, oh, we go to the West Hook gravel mine, which is 4 minutes from our border. It's as local as you can get. And then I go to the highway department and I say, the material that's coming out is bank run. Do we use a lot of bank run? And the highway department says we use very little. He said we use item 4 on our roads and they will not have item 4. And so to me, what is the benefit to the town?
The number one is, okay, they will be producing item 4 there.
They're going to be crushing rock?
It's not crushing rock. They can produce that off-site. The product
Off-site?
The product that's taken
So they
from
can
there,
ship it off-site?
Ship.
You're saying it'd
This
be
material
produced
will-
off-site?
This material will go all over.
There's
They
no
have-
rock crushing allowed in our town now, right?
There's not a hard rock mine.
It's not allowed. They're not allowed to crush rock.
They're not. It's not in this application.
So they can't make item 4. Item 4 is crushed rock.
They can bring in aggregate. They can bring in the other components. But beyond that.
No.
Beyond that,
You said it's you have told people we need a local source of this
we
material.
do need a local source of
Okay.
this material because anyone who has a septic system in this town uses that material.
Why not go to the gravel mine right down the end of East Mountain Road?
Why would we leave the town when we have a local source?
So that the rest of these people here who live on the residential area surrounding that mine don't have to have mining in their backyard.
Here's the applause part.
Yes, exactly. That's
But
true.
the decision was made 7 years ago by the town board.
That's why we have hearings.
And I think,
That's why we have hearings.
That we can get
can
into.
I speak now?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The decision was made by the board, and I think that people are confirming on me a lot more authority than I actually have, by a board at that time, that this would be allowed in town. It would be a permitted use, after a lot of consideration.
Not a 30-year permit.
That is something that
How
does
many
need to be
people? How many
discussed.
people showed up at those meetings? at that
Over the
board?
course of time, 7 years ago, I don't know how many people participated.
I
Yeah,
don't
not-
remember
not-
anyone
not
who
very-
remembers those meetings. People who attended.
And you
all
know
those
something?
meetings,
I
they don't
researched
remember
those
Who does
meetings.
this
To
map
be honest
belong
with you,
to?
and there were no maps relating
Can
to
you
a
publish
mine
the
to
minutes
those.
of
The
that
maps are not available.
meeting?
There are no maps that go with those things. So those were used as justification for the new zoning, but the maps don't exist for the old thing. They don't exist.
There are official identification maps.
Give them to me. I was calling Nancy Montgomery every day, and she told me finally, when the new zoning passed, she said to me, "What does it matter now? We have the new zoning." That's what she said to me.
That's not a mysterious thing to me. Why doesn't anyone call me when these things happen? Why do the letters immediately go to the paper? I am available for meetings. I'm available to meet one-on-one. I will meet with groups. I will discuss any issue that anyone wants
To
to.
have you say that it's a done issue. To say that it's a done deal.
I
You
have-
just said it was done 7 years ago. That now you don't care.
No.
Now it's a done deal.
Richard, I did not say I don't care.
I'm sorry. You didn't say you don't care. That is true. But you did say that. Where were you 7 years ago? And every time.
Then I did not say where were you 7 years ago. I said this started taking place 7 years ago.
It was inferred
That
to
there was-
me. It was inferred to me that these folks all should have been here 7 years ago, and maybe this wouldn't happen.
I'm not.
We're here
inferring-
now.
You can infer all you want.
We're here now.
But that's not what I'm saying.
We're
what
here
I'm saying
now,
is
and-
there was a
and-
process that started 7 years ago.
Right, and you in your position could not, instead of shepherding this thing through and supporting this thing, could first of all, there are so many flaws in this mining application. It's on Clove Creek, it's over Clove Creek Aquifer, it's on an open space overlay. There's the DEC. The DEC got no pushback. When I spoke to Dan Whitehead from the DEC, he said, to be honest with you, the town gave us no pushback. So, their mandate is just to push these things through if the town doesn't question them on anything. And the town gave no pushback. And to me, you are the town. You're the guy giving the pushback. You run the board. You're the one who would do this. You're the one who has influence instead of the ZBA feeling pressure from you that you want this thing to go through and feel it's a fair thing to do. You could be taking a more neutral position, but honestly, you believe this is fair. You think that the Lyons family has done their homework. They've set this thing up right, and at this point, it's unfair to take it away from them. I think that am I really far off your position?
I would say that I'd rather not have you put words in my mouth. That's what I would say.
I'm just asking if I was far off.
I would say you could go on and say, well, I think you're saying this. I could say a lot of things I think you're saying. I heard you during the zoning process, and what I feel is that we went from 50 square miles that were in play down to 23 acres. At that time, and still, that seemed like a good compromise. It seemed like if we were going to have soil mining in the town.
Well, if those, well, first of all, it's going to disturb over 30 acres, and they have the right to increase it by like 40%. They can put on 2 or 3 acres on each 5-acre thing. Plus, our law actually says that they can only get a 5-year permit.
And that is true.
But somehow there's a 30-year permit
But
being
there's a
discussed
5-year
here.
review on this.
But they're not supposed to be given. They're not supposed to.
Special permit for 30 years.
Once this mine is in, there's no stopping it, and you can go to any mine. There's no stopping this mine once it's in. They'll have all the money to fight us, and we won't have the
But
money
again,
to fight back.
this 30 years hasn't been approved here. Hasn't been approved yet. There are a lot of things that have not been approved yet about this.
If the
mine.
ZBA puts their stamp on this, it's pretty much over.
But they have not yet. They haven't set conditions yet. Haven't even gotten to that yet. They're in the public hearing, hearing the process, hearing the public concerns, so that we can address the
But
things
you're
that
here.
we're able to.
But you're here right now. You're here right now to defend the applicant. You are not
I am
here.
not here to defend the applicant. I'm not going to let you say that.
But
I am
that's why
not
you're
to
here.
defend
Why
that.
not just
No,
let the course take its place? Why are you showing up to say only positive things about this mine?
I
And
am
to say
not-
that you
Richard, you are out of control right now.
Okay, so
You're out of
why don't you
control.
say what
so say what? So say how I'm wrong.
I say yes, sir.
Amongst all this discussion, we just saw signs like on East Mountain Road North and East Mountain Road South. So, being new to the meeting and everything, could you just give us an overview of the 23 acres, the location, what exactly is being mined, and is it going to be visible? Where is it going to be visible, and what implications it has as far as removing the land, having equipment?
Noise,
Right, but
hours.
these are things that should be asked in the continuation of the public hearing. Yeah, the access is from Route 9. The mine is not on East Mountain. It's not on East
Okay, it's
Mountain.
between.
That's
It's on the
between
base-
East Mountain
it's at the
Road
base of
North
East
and
Mountain.
Horton
it's a
Road.
fallacy. The mine is not on East
It's
Mountain.
I
at the
didn't
base
say
of
that.
East
I said I
Mountain.
saw signs. I said
Right,
I saw, yeah.
right, but I understand.
I saw a sign. I just was. Where is the mining going to be then?
It's also off of Route 9 toward the north of Mill Road.
North of Mill Road. Okay.
These things get mined every day here. Because there's this little mine at the end of Langate Road, and I feel like nobody ever does anything about it. You know that? It's right at the end of Langate Road. It just,
It's not a mine.
what is that called when you
It's a
take off
contractor's
through
yard.
that?
They're recycling material. That dirt is not coming from that site. That's recycled material. But I don't want to wander too far afield.
No, I don't either, but I mean, every 5 years it's it is a year, the contract. It's not 30 years.
Right.
But it's for 30 years, they said.
Richard, what is
That
your
is
position now that you've been?
My position is that there was a process that I was a part of as a member of the town board. This was, the end of that process was that we did decide there would be soil mining in the town. We went from 50 square miles down to 23 acres, and that's where the law is now.
Is this a done deal?
That
Is
law,
this
that
completed?
law is on the books. That law was
I'm
part,
talking about this mine. Is this mine now approved?
this mine hasn't been approved yet. This is part of the process that's going on now.
And why? I have a question for you. An honest question. Why is this not spot zoning? Because you probably considered this. You're aware of the term for spot zoning. Why is it
I'm
not
aware of
spot
that.
zoning?
Because you have the right, you have the authority to create an overlay district, and this is that overlay district.
Who's
Right,
you?
but an overlay district, no, I understand that. I'm not saying you didn't have the right to create an overlay district.
Right.
But if an overlay district is created in a certain way, it's called spot zoning, which is illegal. And spot zoning, the definition of spot zoning, I would think you'd know it, but maybe I'm wrong. The definition of spot zoning is to grant one property owner a singular right that nobody else around, to the detriment of the surrounding properties. And this is, I don't know how you could say that other properties, you know, and I think that all the surrounding properties, I'm being one of them, feel like there's no way that this doesn't decrease my property value. There's no way that it doesn't disturb the peace in terms of the quiet and the operations of that mine. The mine that they had further away from me, when I would hike throughout the Hubbard Perkins part of Fonstock Park, while that mine was operating, all I heard was that equipment operating the whole time. And I actually did complain about it, and I was told to call the DEC. And I called the DEC, and they called me back about 18 months later. And
I never received that complaint. You never approached me with that complaint.
I came to town hall, and I was told that
By who?
I mean, I don't call you. I go into. I don't remember. This was like
So
back
you
in.
came-
This
you're
was
saying
back
you
in
came
the
to
in the
town
late
hall.
'90s.
Okay.
And I actually had to track down the sound. I wanted to track down. Where's the sound? I'm hiking in Fonsstock Park, and all I hear is the beep, beep, beep of backup beepers, and I hear the sorting of rock and the pounding of equipment. And I'm thinking, I just bought this place in the country. This was in the mid '90s, and I went looking for it, and I found it. I found that it was coming from the Lion's Mine, and I was told, I came to, and Nate was operating a piece of equipment. I went in there and I said, you know, do you really have to, you know, is it necessary to make this noise? It's a noisy business, and these backup beepers were, you know, we have to have them. You know, we also, you know, they're saying that they're going to be using state-of-the-art equipment in there, and that it's going to be even quieter than, you know, than it was before. So we went to that other mine. A few of us went to the mine. I think Sam, is it okay if I say?
Sure.
We went to the mine over in the West Hook mine, and actually Sam wasn't with us for the second part of this, but we went to somebody's backyard and looked down on this mine, and the noise was deafening. We have it posted, and so then we drove, and we drove into the mine, and we met the manager. And the manager was so proud of his mine. He was a good guy. He was so proud of his mine, and what he was most proud of was the fact that he had state-of-the-art equipment, that it was the quietest equipment. He says, you see how quiet it is here? He was beaming. He was beaming. It was, the noise was deafening, but he was probably deaf. But I'm just saying that this guy is doing the best he can. He says, yeah, we have special screens that are made of not the metal and the this and that. And, you know, I wasn't going to argue with him about it. I just wanted to hear what he had to say. And to me, that's the argument that they're making in there, is that we're going to be using state-of-the-art equipment and that the sound is not going to be echoed throughout the valley. But,
Saturdays.
but, and,
So that, just also to, you know, not refute your claims. I understand the West Hook Sand Gravel. West Hook Sand Gravel is 400 acres, of which 70 acres are active. It's a much, much larger site. So I don't know about the comparisons, and I don't know what equipment they're using there. I did reach out to the owner and to his representative to talk about mitigation. I had a meeting with them this morning and had requested saying, look, there has to be some concessions made here. I'm not trying to negate anybody's concerns here. I understand these concerns, and I know about the things that go along with this process. You know, the noise aspect, the dust aspect, the fact that trees will be removed, all of these things. These are all under regulation. It's not done without a process. But the things that I'm hoping they're going to offer tonight are the elimination of the Saturday hours, shorter hours during the regular workday.
That's a concession.
They put it there in the first place for that reason.
Yeah, so that they can take back something and make everybody, the people
I know
feel
you
better.
can be cynical about it, and I understand. I can understand your concerns again, but I would say
Well, you don't have to live with it.
I live on East Mountain, so
Yeah.
at any rate, yes, sir.
Yeah, hi. Maybe you obviously have more experience with boards than probably most of us here. What advice, what do they want to hear that will change their minds? You're saying, we're hearing it's not a done deal, so how can we make it a done deal? What do they need to hear? What arguments can we say?
How do we stop?
You're talking about. I want to be honest with everyone here. This is an allowable use in the town of Phillipstown. It's a permitted use. It's especially.
They're asking for a special
especially,
use permit, right?
they're asking for a specially permitted use. It's a permitted use in the town of Phillipstown
but we
right
can
now.
deny the permitted use for reason, for cause. And,
You
and,
can-
and
That's
in
what
the
I'm
laws, under that, asking for that special use permit, they have to say, is it appropriate for the surrounding area? Are there is it in a residential area? Is it on an open space overlay? It doesn't specifically say open space overlay, but no, actually at some point it does say something about open space overlays. And it also says about the water quality. Would it have an effect on aquifers or tributaries? It's on a trout spawning stream. There are reasons. There are good reasons to deny it. Yes, there is. You folks did set up this mining district and made us vulnerable to this, but that doesn't mean that the ZBA has to approve it. The ZBA for cause cannot, and if they do approve it, then then the town will have to fight against all of us, because we're going to challenge. We'll challenge this because we feel like it is illegal spot zoning. We feel it is detrimental to the water quality. There's nothing in there. There's nothing in the application about the well water, how much well water they're using. There's nothing in the application about how it affect wells around in the residences around it. There's nothing in there, and no one, we're supposed to. I asked the ZBA why we didn't hire somebody. Why are we just taking the applicant's engineering reports? Who's looking out for us? And what I'd like to know. He said, well, we have our town engineer. What I'd like to know is, let me see, what are our town engineer's qualifications for looking at this work, and how much time did he really put into analyzing these reports? I mean, basically, the ZBA is saying to me, we're depending on the DEC. And the DEC regulates Tail, and you see what that looks like. They regulate West Hook, and we see what that looks like.
I'm not going to let you get away with that. Thale has nothing to do with this. That is not. There's no comparison between the Thale mine and
it's regulated by the DEC.
But okay, that's just unfair trying to compare the two, though. And I'm not saying. I'm just saying I'm not going to let you get away with comparing this huge site that's Hard Rock Mine that's up 400 feet in the air. It's not the same type of application.
But they operate. But they operate at night hours. They do all sorts of things that they shouldn't be doing.
Right.
They have, and the DEC. My point is not that this mine is going to look like Thale. I agree with you. Mm-hmm. But my point is that they do all sorts of violations that if we're relying on the DEC to police this for us, because we can't, as a town, we can't afford to police it.
We can't afford to police this. We have a code enforcement officer. It's one site, and we will be monitoring.
We have one code enforcement officer that enforces everything in the town. Mm-hmm. I mean, he'll tell you that he won't enforce anything without somebody calling him. He does it by calling.
That's not true for this. This would have to be monitored. And again, this is a process. This isn't a decision that's been made.
They're going to be earning. They will pull tens of millions of dollars worth of material out of this mine.
How are we going to?
Well, I do.
So the decision hasn't been made, but what can you guide us to what we can say that could sway them in our favor, the majority's favor?
But he's saying he doesn't want to do that. He feels
that
that
is not what I'm saying, Richard. I am not going to allow you to put words in my mouth.
Let him answer. Yeah.
Somebody wants to speak.
But let's wait. Can we wait for his answer? Wait, sir.
No, let him run as he wants to.
He's willing to answer. He's a good guy.
As far as advising you on what to say, you get up and voice your legitimate concerns. If you have concerns about noise, you have concerns about water quality, you have concerns about air quality, those are things that are legitimate concerns. And life quality issues.
Well, we did that last.
Right. Those things need to go on the record. All these things need to be weighed in a balance. And I do agree that all these things need to be taken into account, and the decision does need to be rendered in the end. But what I am saying, the only thing I can say factually, not the only thing, is that it is right now a permitted use in the town of Phillipstown. That was decided years ago. It's been decided on multiple occasions. It was decided in the old zoning code, and when we adopted the new zoning code, it was decided again. And by a board. I don't make unilateral decisions on these things. I neither support these things nor deny them.
But you do have a lot of influence over the board. You do. You have a lot of influence over the board. Your board.
My board?
Yes.
My board is an independent thinking board. We have discussions on things. I respect the whole board. I wouldn't say that I hold sway over the board.
Well, here's an independent board here, the ZBA.
Yes.
Okay, there's supposed to be an independent board. And the man that appointed all of them is standing here influencing the outcome of their decision.
That's absolutely untrue. I am not even in that room and have had no discussions with that board about this. Yes, sir.
Could it be argued that the impact of the houses in the area, the houses that are right next to the mining and going further away from the mining, how will it impact the value of the house and their property?
But these are all valid arguments. I'm not going to deny that that's a
legally get a value of how it's going to impact
But why wasn't that
the people that live in the area and the value of their houses and how it will decrease the value of the houses?
There are things that have been considered. There was an 80-acre active mine right there. There's a mine across the street operating right now.
But if you have a house that was there,
it's not operating.
It is still operating.
If you have a house there that doesn't have the mining, and now that same house is there with the mining, does it decrease the value of the house and who's going to buy it?
Absolutely.
So could that be used as an argument? I'm
And
asking.
of course, yes, it can
I'm
be used
sure-
as an argument. The ZBA has
I'm
said
sure
it
you
can be
could
used
make
as an
that.
argument.
Yes,
And
sir.
Richard, I hear what you're saying about this is a permitted situation. I'm
Yes.
trying to be practical. I mean, everything you've said about, on balance, we have a right to protest. It will be taken into
Absolutely.
consideration.
Absolutely.
But as our supervisor, is there some way that you can look into the future and say that we could have this mine somewhere else rather than in that area? Somewhere in an area of the county that doesn't have that densely population. It doesn't have the problems with the aquifer, doesn't have the problems with the noise. This is a pretty big county, and I'm sure we can move that, and maybe that would be the right balance.
But currently, the law exists. This is permitted within the law currently.
How can we change that?
well, how can we change that law?
You couldn't,
assuming-
during an application, it wouldn't be valid to change the law.
Right, but let's say the application is denied, then we can change the law, correct?
If the application is denied, the law can be changed, yes.
Right, and would
The
you
law
be,
could be changed outside of this application also.
So how do we?
right, now would you be willing to consider changing the law?
Absolutely.
If the application is denied?
Absolutely.
Even if it's not done.
Well, he's saying it
go
can't be
either
done.
way.
Well,
You couldn't during the middle of a process point to the applicant and say, guess what, we're changing the law. That wouldn't work, it would never hold up. That's,
well, the zone,
this hasn't been approved yet, so there's no grandfather. When the process is over, when everyone's been heard, when the public hearing is closed.
Well, when
still
who decides
more
what
process
everybody?
going
But I'm saying any sense of timeline here, like,
I don't have a
You want
sense.
to be hard.
It won't be, month, it'll be several.
be several after, month after month, once a month.
Well, the public hearing will continue beyond.
You said this was a process for
Yeah.
10 years. Who was included in the process? Because I live on Mill Road.
Right.
And I never heard about this. And the people on the board who are voting, did they live anywhere near this?
was any notice given for this process that's
There were,
taken place?
there were public meetings that were conducted over the course of, I don't know, 3 years, but also this was part of the zoning process.
Yeah, but who made up the zoning?
But you said, but the mining district was sort of set up before the zoning process.
And then looked again.
But it wasn't in the comprehensive plan.
It was taken.
But it's not on the comprehensive plan.
It wouldn't have been in the comprehensive plan.
Well, actually, a mining spot zoning. One of the definitions of spot zoning is that when you have a situation like this, one of the things that would actually mitigate against spot zoning would be as if this was in the comprehensive plan.
But support of local business is in the comprehensive plan.
But also it says in the comprehensive plan that mining has had an adverse impact on the Route 9 corridor, and that we want uses that will be consistent with tourism and residential and wildlife and the park. I mean, it doesn't say anything about mining in the comprehensive plan. And to me, I understand that this law was made, but it was a poorly conceived law. It is clearly challengeable for spot zoning. If this passes, it's going to be challenged as spot zoning. And there are other mining interests, I believe, that are going to challenge it for their own purposes to ask for the same. What about across the road at Mary Finger? What's her property? I mean, maybe Charlie Polhemus here wants to mine somewhere.
Charlie, after this, do you want to mine somewhere?
Or maybe Mary Finger, her property.
I have a question.
Yes, Mark.
Glasgow Court, the retirement
Glasgow
community.
Court.
Yeah. Do they know about this, or do they have any? Oh, you're part of that?
Yeah.
I'll actually be
3
attending
weeks
the
ago.
meeting at Glassbury Court is on the 22nd of June.
Is the mine right next to that? This is pretty close.
Not
isn't it?
right next.
Oh, it's not next to it. So I would think that whoever owns that would have some
Well, they're
interest.
here, and there are people
They were here
upstairs.
last time, and they went. We had a 2-hour meeting last time, and we spoke for. I'm not Glassbury, but I have my property abuts Lions, and I knew Harold, and Harold told me when he bought that property that they were not allowing him to mine, And all of a sudden now, after he's dead, and now the kids are taking over, suddenly they're allowing mining. So he knew when he bought that property, because he bought 300 acres, I guess with the interest of that space on 9.
He wasn't allowed to mine there at
Right,
one
he
point.
wasn't allowed to
Now
mine.
he is,
All
and
of a
he's
sudden,
and he's the only
years, he was-
a mining district is being set up. I mean, a mining district is supposed to be set up. Districts, overlays are supposed to be set up for the town's purposes, and it's not supposed to be. It's called spot zoning when it's set it up. I mean, Richard said in the paper, and I think you've said now maybe that that these are the only guys that asked for
They didn't
a
ask.
mine.
No one approached us. We approached the public. I want to make that clear.
How, in what
And
way?
also just
and
say,
how was that done?
how was that done?
How did
We
you approach the
identified
public?
the areas. We had public meetings. People attended the public meetings. We contacted potential people who are in the business of doing these things. See, will you be?
You contacted them?
Charlie, were you asked if you wanted a mine?
Answer any questions.
Were you asked? Were you asked?
I'm not going to answer.
Okay, so I don't necessarily think that, I don't think, my guess is that you didn't reach out that far, and is there a record?
We did
Is there
reach
a
out
record?
far.
Is there a record
I'm
of it?
sure there are minutes of these meetings. They're 7 years
There-
ago. But at any rate, for you to say that Harold couldn't mine at that the Lyons family couldn't mine at that time,
Well, she said it,
that's
actually.
untrue.
He told me that.
It's untrue. It's not true.
He
In fact,
told
that
me
time, the
that they
entire
were-
town was
He told
open.
me, and my husband.
I
who
thought
was there at
the town was
meeting.
closed to mining for a while,
No,
and
the
then there was a
town-
case brought before the court, and it was overturned.
The Mercy case.
Right, so,
But at
so
that
at one
time-
point,
but at the
at
time
one
that
point the
this was
town
done-
was completely closed,
He
correct?
bought that
Before I was on the
property
town
in
board,
the
I did not know.
90s.
But you don't know?
The Merson case was about. I'd have to review what the Merson case is about. But there was precedent-setting law there where the town was overturned on denying someone a permit based on a specific set of guidelines.
There was no. The town was claiming that they didn't. That there was no mine. They were giving out no more permits.
They were
Right.
trying to regulate mining, and they were trying to take the authority that the DEC has. That's what
They were doing it improperly, and we had an opportunity to do it properly when we set up the new zoning, and we could have had no mining districts.
Right.
And instead, we put a mining district. It's not a district that suddenly we put a mining district within the property of one person's property. We put a mining district solely on that property to the benefit of one person and to the detriment of everything around it. That is the definition of spot
I
zoning.
can hear what you're saying, but that's not the way. That's not the way the process went. And at that time, you had 50 square miles in play. 50 square miles reduced to 23 acres.
But you had the opportunity to have nothing.
At which time
you
we
had
did-
the opportunity
and
to
we
have
did.
no mine.
I will not deny we had that opportunity, but we were not
I
willing
mean-
at that
I
time
mean-
to tell
I mean-
people we don't like your business. You're out of business. today."
But Richard, the town may have also been vulnerable to if we may not have had laws.
Who's the next two that perhaps have adjacent properties to the mine? Or close? Would you like to go?
To where?
I live on Mill Road.
Doing such a good job. Professional.
All right, this conversation can go on and on. It will go on. If anyone wants to meet with me, please call. I would meet with anyone here at any time at your convenience. If you want to discuss this process, there will be a continuation of the public hearing. I appreciate your concerns. Believe me, I am not taking this lightly. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a defender of the environment. You know that about me.
What's your name?
Richard Shea.
Richard Shea?
Yes.
S-H-E-A?
SHEA, Town Supervisor. We're at 265-5200. If you want to give me a call, I would encourage you to. Please do. So I'm going to go inside and see if there's going to be room for any more people.
Thank you for talking, Rich. Thank you. That was nice.
One last announcement, guys, to get all your signatures. Anyone who's against the mine?
Anybody else that
Miss
goes
anybody?
in, they just started the speeches. They're being
good.
quick, so people are going to start coming out of this place on a faster pace now. They've already finished with the other issues, so if you'd like to wait and go in.
What have you heard? Could you encapsulate really briefly, succinctly, what you've heard so far?
Yeah, basically, I'm the one who would be most affected by this mine. I actually have the property which was separated from Joan Ellison.
I'll call you later.
And thank you. I actually bought a 60-acre parcel of land. which is right next to the mine. I'm the closest person on top of that mine other than the Ellison property. The Ellison property has 3 homes, but she rents out her homes. And she gets a small percentage of every amount of dirt that comes out of that mine. So obviously she's not going to complain. Myself, on the other hand, I came to this town, I looked for 60 acres. I wanted to be a resident here, and because I was neighboring this town before. I bought the 60 acres in hopes to do a small subdivision. I wanted to do 3 houses and live in one, build my dream home, and sell one off, or 2 off. It took me years to do this whole process. I even had the planning board follow me. They said, well, you know, we've got it down to 2 lots. Let's go down and see your lots. They followed me down to see both of my lots. The planning board together to approve 2 lots on 60 acres because they said that I was being environmentally unfriendly. I build environmentally friendly homes. My house is a geothermal house. It's a less imprint than anybody else's house.
Well, we heard our supervisor say that the property owners most effective 7 years ago were contacted. Do you recall getting contacted? Or was this
7
before
years
your
ago,
time? This is before your time.
Just before my time, which is interesting because I hired a firm. I was told by Vicki and Jerry Albanese, who are reputable realtors in this town and who showed me that property. And they said, you know, we should go down and talk to Beatty and Watson because Beatty and Watson, you know, 2 hours with him, pay him his time, and he can give me insight on this property. He did give me insight on the property. I asked him, is there anything I should be aware of in as far as in the proximity of my property that would affect my property in any which way or manner? He said no. He said no. So my question is, if he says no, and I can see where my kitchen is, my Board of Health approved lot, which he helped me do, and I spent about $50,000 to get the subdivision. He gives me my Board of Health approval lot, not telling me at all about the mining, and I can actually see the mine from my kitchen window if I was in my proposed home. Pardon? And he represents them. So for him to say he's not biased, or for him to say that he's completely ethical, I'm sorry to say, but that's my example, and I have witnesses to prove it.
I appreciate
Sir, what's your name?
My name's Rodney Webb. Right.
And my original question is, what did you hear when you were inside there? Because we were all out here. What
I
what
was
is
the
the
first
sense,
one.
the tone?
That was my speech. You've got it. I might have left out a few things, but at the beginning, when I purchased my home or the property, there was no registration in town hall that said there was any mine or mine overlay or mining district. There was nothing. About 4 years ago, there was no. Even I went down to Tom Monroe, the building inspector. There's no mine there. There's no mining district. So where the mining overlay is, I have no clue where it was registered, but it was not on a map.
So it was done 7 years ago, and 4 years ago they lied to you.
That's right. 4 years ago. And I went down to town hall and I looked for the paperwork, even last year when the new zoning came out. And there was still no papers prior to the new zoning that said that this was going to be a mining district. No one could find it. Jerry Albanese couldn't find it. Vicki Albanese couldn't find it. The actual planning, the building inspectors in town hall weren't aware of it. And then when I went back into Beatty and Watson's office a year ago after this new zoning came out, there was interest to buy my property. It was great. You know, I had interest to buy my property. Then the new zoning came out. They ran for the hills. So I went down and I talked to Beatty and Watson and I asked them, you didn't care to mention that you were working on this project this whole time? You know, well, he said, it's in the deed, it was written, you know, there was things considering it. I asked him, but I asked you if there was anything going on, and you said no. Well, it's in the town minutes. You should have done your due diligence. That's the man who's representing that company, and that's why I, nor any of you, should trust him. thing, folks.
Here you
Hired him as your expert.
Say again?
Then what?
Say again?
Well, if you had hired him as your expert, don't you have a case against him?
I now have a lawyer. So we'll go from there.
So one thing, folks.
Well, I know one thing. I know one thing in disputes with land and law. Lawyers have a great place in our society, but I'm not one to sue people. I like one to take, you know.
Surveyors are much lower.
Yeah. I'll let you speak on that behalf.
Especially in
And I was new in this town. You know, I have some great friends in this town, and I respect everybody here, and I just wanted to call it my home. And now, I had to sell my house in the meantime. I don't live there anymore. I just sold it about 4 weeks ago, because all the payments plus the land down below is killing me. So now I don't have my home anymore that I built for the last 3 to 4 years, and I'm stuck with a property of 30 acres that's worthless.
Can I ask you a question? My understanding is that this particular site and location was made public at a public hearing on June 23rd, 2009, and I didn't catch the dates when you were speaking to Glenn Watson.
Yes. Unfortunately, and I am accountable for this, unfortunately with my work and my travels, I'm not here for every...
That's just when I first heard
No,
about
that's okay. I did hear about it, and I thought, okay, that's just a planning board, and it's not going to affect me. Because my property, as well as all the properties in that area, including the Lions property, is an open space overlay. So there's now a mine in the middle of open space overlay. Well, my question is, why isn't open space here? You know, I don't understand. Where are they? You know, I mean, this is open space.
We're new to the area, that's all around us. What is an open space?
Open space is
This is
so
all
many...
around our house, too.
Exactly.
What does that mean exactly?
Ask open
What is
space,
open
because
space?
obviously it doesn't mean what I think it means.
Well, it means there's some kind of limit on development of that area? Is that 'cause
Yeah, they're trying to protect the environment and the space around us.
Hudson River.
Yeah, 'cause it's behind us, across the street from us, next to me, my whole property.
So I go through the planning board four times, whatever it may be, because they're screaming environment, yet I got a mine that I can see from my property. I don't understand it. It's something that...
As somebody who's had to sit in a bunch of ZBA meetings, whether you're for or against this mining project, make sure you write a letter to the board. They set a lot of stead in getting letters, so you write a letter, get your family, friends, and make sure they get letters. Because oftentimes you have them say, we received no letters. So it's another avenue. Sit down, pick up a pen, print it out, send it to them.
Anyway, I appreciate your time.
No, thank you.
But it's not my... anyway, I would appreciate it to talk again. All right. Good night, everybody.
How many letters does it take to sway? I mean, the more the better.
Registering of impact. Obviously, the fact that there's